we sort of talked about last time, but expand it out a little bit so that we can get a segment out of this maybe, or make something of this, which is we've talked a little bit about the places that we've traveled to in terms of trips, but what are the countries that we most want to visit or find the most interesting?
So back to superpowers. No, that's a great question, Peacock.
To go to Belgium.
Wow.
Have you ever been to Belgium?
I would like to go to Belgium. Is because I've been to Belgium. Belgium
That's boring.
I want to go to Belgium because I've been there.
The chocolate in Belgium is to die for. The beer selection is like none other. And good golly, Miss Molly, have you had their waffles?
Wow.
And I believe the EU is headquartered there, if I remember correctly.
EU.
Did you know that Brussels sprouts did not come from Brussels? Did you know that Belgians eat French fries with mayo?
Yeah, Americans also do that too.
Oh, really?
With mayo?
Mayo and ketchup, if you mix them together, that's like a West Coast thing.
What? I've never heard of that.
Turkey, go ahead and name your destination.
Well, if we're going to name places that we've already been to.
Oh, that wasn't the question.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I think that's how you answered it.
Countries to visit.
Oh, I just happened to have been there before, you know?
I will say I will go off the grid slightly and say Croatia, highly recommend. That's it.
That's the only country you want to visit?
Turkey, thank you for sharing.
No, I've been to Croatia, and I would highly recommend everyone visit.
Okay, yeah, that's very good, yeah.
Would you care to share any facts about Croatia, whether it be the cuisine, the people, the tourist destinations, the cigars?
I will say how we did our trip was, I think, is an excellent way of doing it. We flew into Zagreb, and we rented a car and drove the entire coast of Croatia down all the way to Dubrovnik. And that way you can stop in multiple cities and see all their national parks, which they have two gorgeous, like unbelievable, like fairy tale-esque looking national parks that blow. Although to be fair, I haven't been to all the major awesome United States national parks, but they're pretty incredible there. And they got nice waterfalls and all this stuff. And then when you're passing to Dubrovnik, which if anyone is a Game of Thrones fan, that is
I was just about to mention that. Yeah,
that's where King's Landing was filmed. You have to pass through a little area of Bosnia and Herzegovina, so you're actually technically driving through a second country to get to the rest of Croatia because it's not connected.
Wow.
And it is wow indeed.
Yeah, it seems like.
And it's really cheap.
Is that along
the trip? Is that everything?
Is it the Adriatic Sea that borders that?
I think it's the Aromatic Sea.
I think it's the Adrian and Rocky Balboa Sea.
I'm literally trying to remember because it's the sea that's east of Italy, and I can't remember what the name of it is.
It is the Adriatic Sea. You are correct.
Yay!
East of Italy Sea.
I'll take seas around Croatia for 400. But yeah, I think the Balkans would be an interesting place to visit for sure.
Oh, do you?
I do. I think it's cool that you got to go there.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And you went to that famous city in Greece, the coastal. Is it an island or a coastal city with the
Santorini?
Yeah, that would be the one.
I also did a day trip to Montenegro, which is also kind of a little bit more exotic of your European countries. So that was really nice.
Yeah, we need to do a European trip at some point. I know we talked about going to the Olympics in 2024 when I was in Paris, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
I've never been to France, and I kind of want to visit. I have a friend who spoke very highly about it.
Yeah.
There's a place in France.
Wow, good job.
Thanks. Are you familiar with the song?
Yeah, I think I am actually.
That's good. Thanks.
You know where I really want to visit? That's kind of
France.
Thanks.
that's kind of off the beaten trail a little bit.
What?
France.
I'd love to go to Australia or New Zealand.
I think Australia would be cool, except for all the animals that can kill you.
Agreed. I would freak, like straight freak. The amount of snakes. Oh God. I would.
But it's not like I don't know. I feel like there aren't that many. There shouldn't be that many that can actually like kill you. It's not like there's one killer animal per Australian or something like that. I feel like it's one of those things where you can at least avoid it if you're smart. It's not like you go into the airport and you walk in and you just you get attacked by a kangaroo. Like you walk through the airport and you get outside and like where should we go? And then a taxi drives up and a kangaroo jumps out and just like kicks in your ribs or something like that.
All right, I'm gonna read you Thrillist.com, everything in Australia that's trying to kill you.
But it's the amount, the quantity of animals, not just that there are animals.
15 spiders. There are around 520 species of spider wriggling around Australia, most of which are extremely venomous and will not hesitate to bite if you encroach their turf. Then there's crocodiles.
There are crocodiles in Florida.
Crocodiles.
There's waves. There's Russell Crowe. There's cone snails. I've never even heard of that. There's rugby players. Okay, this is I don't know. There's sharks. There's kangaroos. There's drop bears. Drop bears closely resemble koalas to fool you into liking them, but have zero qualms about dropping from treetops to attack.
Great. That's a good boy. No.
Giant. Yeah, well, what we're talking about is like the equivalent of saying that I don't want to go to Florida because there's gators down there. You know what I mean?
No, but this is not just gators. This is literally everything.
I know, but it's the proportion of animals that are down there, and there's tons of crocodiles and alligators, which apparently crocodiles are way more aggressive than alligators. But there's still a ton of crocodiles down there, and it's.
Are there a ton of crocodiles, or are they mostly alligators?
Alligators.
Well, there's tons of reptiles that will attack you sometimes.
Yeah, but this literally is like all the animals.
But isn't it about the quantity as opposed to just like the dangerous quality of it?
Quantity versus the quality debate.
Yeah, well, if there's one animal in Australia, in all of Australia,
I literally listed 15.
I know, but my point is, if there were one animal, I'd be less scared of one animal that could just obliterate you out of existence versus 1,000 crocodiles in Florida or something like that. You know what I mean?
Can you imagine if there was an Australian mafia boss named Kangaroo Jack?
These are the top 10 most dangerous. This is top 10.
Yeah, but just because they're the most dangerous doesn't mean that there's going to be a million of them around. It's not like Australia is populated only by these animals.
But if there's 10 different animals that are going to kill you, then there's got to be around the area.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that the risk is equal among them. There's a better chance of you dying in I think either the world or the United States. There's a better chance of you dying because of a vending machine falling on you than a shark attacking you. So the point is that just because something seems more scary or maybe more deadly on the surface doesn't mean it's a greater risk to you dying.
Well, I mean, I guess I agree with that, but the fact that there's more animals means that there's a more likelihood of you encountering those animals just because there are more to choose from.
That's not true.
Well, I mean, like,
that's blatantly not true because
if you
Because-
say that there's only crocodiles in Australia, well, then you have a certain population of crocodiles. But now we're also adding box jellyfish and taipan snakes and blue-ringed octopus. So even if you add only one of those animals to the already crocodile group that you're talking about, now you've automatically have more to worry about.
Okay, so this is like really straightforward. It's just risk assessment. So what you have to do is you have to say what you have to say is for every crocodile or every animal you interact with, what is the risk that that's going to kill you? And what you're saying is the animals in Australia have a high risk per animal of killing you. They're just more deadly. But it might be that the whole risk in general is a lot higher if there's more animals. So if you have 1 million crocodiles around, then there's going to be a greater chance of you dying from a crocodile than something than
Well, yeah, but do you know?
than one spider that you might not ever interact with. There's just more of a risk of death with it. It's like shark attacks aren't going to happen in Kansas. You know what I mean?
Well, what argument are you making? You literally are saying, like, do you know the actual numbers of how many crocodiles are in wherever you're talking about versus Australia?
Well, the point is
no.
No, but here's what you need. You need the number of crocodiles and the risk of an individual crocodile killing a person. And then what you can do is you can times up. You can
it
just
is not that complicated.
It is, and that's how you could calculate it. You could say, here's the risk of you dying because of a deadly animal in Australia versus somewhere else.
Well, I'm sure they have that, but my point is,
and it's probably much lower. That's my point. Like
you're saying, you're saying then where?
Australia,
you're
like,
saying it's much lower to die in Australia than where?
1 million crocodiles, they're not going to have the same risk of killing you. I'd assume these deadly spiders.
We're not comparing 1 million crocodiles to one stonefish in Australia. We're talking about obviously there's going to be more than one of each, but I don't know the exact numbers, and I don't even know where we're comparing it to.
Okay, that's fair, but do you think there's really do you think the risk of death is really that much higher, and that there are that many of these destructive animals?
Yes, Australia is known for its deadly animals.
Yes, but that's not the same thing as saying that there is a large quantity altogether of it.
Okay, you know what?
Yes, that if you run in that spider, it kills you 50% of the time. But if a crocodile kills you 1% of the time, and there's 1 billion crocodiles in Florida, and there's one spider in Australia, you should be more freaked out by those 1 billion crocodiles and the ones.
Squirrely.
I think the argument that Turkey's trying to make is that each of these animals in Australia have psychic powers.
And all the ones in Florida are ghost type.
I'm tracking.
I think those animals you're talking about aren't maybe. I think people say, one kangaroo could cave in your ribs. And that's true. And it may be that you'd rather run into a crocodile than a kangaroo. But that doesn't mean that Australia is more of a risk to go to or should be labeled with that sort of deadly animal perspective. You know what I mean?
It's more of like fair enough. Like I don't think he's quoting stats. I think it's more of like on the surface, it's an explanation for his level of fear.
Yeah, that's fair.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think he's quoting stats here.
You're not like this whole this whole argument. I don't understand why we're having it. Australia has deadly animals. It is known for its deadly animals. So by definition, if you have a lot of different groups of deadly animals, then it's going to be, you have to look out for deadly animals. I'm not saying that other places don't have deadly animals, but the fact that Australia has so many different kinds of deadly animals that can kill you versus, maybe there are 1 billion crocodiles in Florida.
Like, there aren't 1 billion crocodiles in Florida.
I mean, there could be. We just don't know about them. But like, my point
they're all in the water waiting.
Like, Australia has so many different types of deadly animals that, like, you might, I don't know, like, you might come across one.
But that's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. You have to analyze.
It's not the same thing as what?
You have to analyze relative threat.
I don't have to analyze it.
I want to go to Australia because I might run into one of those. Then it's not a realistic threat relative to, like, say, it would be incorrect to say, like, oh, I don't want to go to Florida, or I feel safe going to Florida, but I don't feel safe going to Australia if the relative risk level is higher in Florida for animals. That's
okay. Okay, relative risk of going to Australia based on
no one has done this calculation before.
Based on their deadly animals. I'm looking this up. Here are the animals really most likely to kill you in Australia.
That's not what I'm asking about. You need the number of those animals.
Australia Geographic. Australia is renowned for its venomous snakes, scary spiders, and even painful plants. But the animals that pose the biggest risk to our lives might surprise you.
There you go. That's my whole point. People don't even know the relative risk, so they'll look.
So basically, what this is saying is the scary, deadly animals that we're afraid of, they're not even the worst part.
Well, that's like saying, oh, you're scared of sharks. Well, have you ever seen vending machines before? Like, yeah, that may be true, but it's about people having a inaccurate relative risk. So
can I just point out that at this point, I feel much more comfortable with the idea of going to Australia.
I mean, at least there's not 1 billion crocodiles. If I had the choice of going to Australia or literally going into a den of 1 billion crocodiles.
Thanks for taking a ride on Spaceship Piff. If you're interested in another trip, check out one of our other videos. And consider leaving a comment on our most recent podcast about how you paid it forward.